rector down there at a wonderful parish. And then life and the Holy Spirit brought me back up here to Rhode Island to be in the job that I was just telling you about, to be the director of the Episcopal Conference Center. It's been a lovely thing for me. But I had a transition period before I started the job where I was living any 33-year-old's dream and living with my mom and my husband in Newport, which was actually quite lovely. And I had some free time, which I had taken really intentionally between my meager 4 years of parish ministry and the next job I took, because I'll admit to you that after just 4 years of parish ministry, I was pretty surprised at how tired I was, and I needed some time. And so one of the things that I did during that time to try to regroup and renew myself was to join a program. My mom's a yoga teacher, and the studio she was working at did this great program. It was a 40-day program, and there were 3 components to the program. So yoga was one component daily, meditation was one component, and then eating was a component. So they had a holistic nutritionist who came in to work with the group and kind of talked to you about food and how to feed your body in a healthy way. And so my mom and my sister had both done this program with her, and they had a really remarkable experience because they sat with her and this nutritionist in an individual session, and they would kind of say, these are all the things that are going on with me and my body. And she was very quickly able to say, okay, it sounds like maybe you have a problem with dairy, or maybe you have an issue with wheat or gluten. So I was kind of excited. I thought, I didn't want to not eat dairy, but I had some things that were going on. And I was just, I don't know, I just was feeling that fatigue in my body in so many ways. And so I thought, this would be so great if she could just say, oh, the issue's gluten, just stop eating gluten, and then all of my problems would resolve. So I went in kind of excited. And I listed off all the things that were going on with me, this wide range of weirdo situations. And she looked at me and she nodded and she said, you're under a lot of stress. You're stressed out. She said, you need to exercise. And I was like, that's not on the list. We're here to talk about food. I don't want to talk to you about exercise. I don't want to exercise. This is not the thing. I want to just stop eating beans. Have all my problems go away. And I just was so stunned that was her suggestion to me. And I was just really disappointed because exercise was about the thing I'm the least interested in. I didn't want to do that at all, and I did not want that to be the solution to my problem at all. And I listened, and I found some exercise that did work for me, and I know she wasn't wrong. Okay, when I started to exercise on a regular basis, a lot of things were better. It's a practice I hope to renew someday, but I've fallen off of that. I have 2 small children to blame. But at any rate, I did that work. But I thought of that story when I heard our readings today, because that is such a metaphor to me of what so often happens in my life with God, right? That I have a situation, I have a problem that I want to resolve. And I pray, like this reading from James, right? If you're having a problem, pray to God. God will come and help you. This is a very promising reading from James about how great prayer is. And so I want prayer to be the solution. Like if I just pray about this, it will go away, right? If I just stop eating beans, I'll be fine. And so what so often happens is I come before God with this issue that I'm having, or this problem that I want resolved, and in my head, because I'm praying about it, God is going to respond like, oh, sweet child, you're doing all the right things, and you're so wonderful, and since you have asked so nicely, I will relieve you of these burdens that you have in your life. This is what I expect every time. And what I tend to get instead in the prayer actually sounds a little closer to what our friend Jesus is saying in the gospel today, which is like less warm and fuzzy, right? What I tend to get is It's better to cut off your hand and throw it away than for the whole of you to be thrown into hell. And I'm like, oh, is that really what is that where we're going with this conversation? Like, this sounds kind of harsh, right? This doesn't sound like that coloring page I had of Jesus and the animals when I was a kid. Like, this sounds a lot harder. And so it's so interesting that, that so often we long for change. We long for renewal. We long for our problems to resolve and to go away and to be free of the burdens in our lives. But we want it to just happen. We want it to just go away. And unfortunately, in my experience, that's not always how it happens, right? And so I like to always envision when we have a passage like this where Jesus is saying this sort of thing, I like to always imagine that he probably tried to say this same message in a much nicer way many times first, right? That he probably tried real gentle, just like when I'm trying to get my kids to stop yelling, right? That the first couple of times I'm super friendly, like, okay guys, we're gonna draw the picture instead, let's come do this other thing. And then like by time 15, when none of that is effective, the tone changes a little bit, right? Because you're like trying to get the point across and it's not being heard. So I like to imagine that Jesus tried to say this in a much warmer way many times, and it just didn't reach people. And so suddenly we have this message that sounds kind of extreme, right? And so my inclination is always, of course, to want to dismiss the extreme message, just like I wanted to dismiss that nutritionist who told me that I had to exercise. But I think always it's so important for us to engage with this scripture and hear the truth in it, even if the truth is hard for us to hear. And even if the way the truth is presented bumps up against us a little bit because it doesn't sound as warm and fuzzy as we want our Christian lives to feel. And I'm not sure where we went astray with that. Like, for anyone who's paying attention, like, warm and fuzzy isn't actually what the Christian life and message is all about, but I don't know. I guess it's just something about being human. That's what we always want it to be. It's about being resurrected. It's about being saved. It's about being transformed. That's what the Christian life is about. Worth it. Totally worth it. But I think that it means constantly bumping up against this invitation from God to do the work and to change and to not just pray, but to listen to what comes to you in prayer and to say, okay, I've given the space, I've asked you to be with me, I am open to what you have to say, and then when you hear whatever the thing is, to be brave enough to take the action. I mean, I think there's a whole cycle in there, right? And so this message about, you know, if your right hand offends you, or if whatever it is that's dragging you down, I think the reality is sometimes, most of the time, whatever that thing is that is dragging us down is often the thing that we feel the most attached to, right? If we really get real and look at our lives and identify our problems and try to figure out what the source of that might be and what is really burdening us in our lives, at least in my experience, it's like the exercise thing, where like the thing that I most don't want to do is actually the thing that I most need for myself. Or perhaps it's the thing that I most want to cling to instead of letting go. And that could be any range of things. Like, for me it's technology. You know, I just get so, and I know that it causes me trouble. I know that my engagement with the internet and then with the world through my little handheld device is a problem for me, but like, you can rip that thing from my cold dead hands, right? Like, I'm not gonna change my pattern, I'm just gonna complain about how bad it is. But maybe it's something else, right? Maybe it's a behavior pattern that you have in some other way. Maybe it's some kind of anger or resentment, or maybe there is forgiveness that's needed in your life, but you just want to hang on to whatever it is that's, because it's comfortable. And we like to do the things we've always been doing. And so this message from Jesus is a tough one to hear because we do want change, but we want it to be easy. We want to offer a simple prayer to God and have everything be different. And as That's just not always the way it happens, you know? I think I have seen our country come into that a little bit this week. It's been a really hard week, I think, in our collective consciousness as a country, to take in everything that's happening politically and to want change. I think we all want change. I think that's something we can agree on, right? I think we all feel like what's happening in our political system and in our world right now is pretty broken. And yet, I think a whole lot of us don't want to change the way we're doing things. We want the change to just happen. But we don't want to let go of the things that we grip to. And so my hope and prayer is always in those moments collectively as a society, but also as individuals, is when that conflict comes up, when we want change and we don't want to let go of something, that's when we really need to invite God in. You know, and that's when we can't do it without God. That's when we need Spirit to just swoop in and inform us and help us to discern that next action. You know, we can be wide open, and that's when the prayer does really work, you know? When you just let go. And you say, like, okay, God, I clearly don't know what I'm doing here. It's time for you to take over and follow what's given. It's tender time. And I don't think we'll have any success doing it collectively if we can't figure out how to do it personally. You know, I think it starts with us. The ability to identify the need for change and to identify those things that are dragging us down, you know, those things that are burdening us, and then the willingness and the courage to let go of those things to be made new. So it's not always a message that feels real easy to hear, but I believe that it is needed, and I believe that that process is how we are made free. Amen.